Can these leggings from Vuori dethrone Lululemon? Let's take a look. I'm Joe. I've been in manufacturing for over a decade, and I've overseen the production of millions of products all over the world. And on this show, we take apart pieces from your favorite brands, see if the quality is there, and I'll let you know if it's worth your hard-earned money. This is Industry Secrets. All right, we are back. Industry Secrets. What do you got for me this week, Zach?
Check it.
Okay, Vuori. This is another community request. This is their daily legging, Isle Blue, Breathe interlock fabric, second skin softness that feels as good as it fits. Daily legging, make no mistake in the name, you'll wear them daily. High rise fit with chic cuffed ankle, no slip legging fit, ultra soft four-way stretch material, moisture wicking, 7/8 lengths, 24.5 inseam. It's polyester elastane, which is what makes it moisture wicking. And these are made in Cambodia. From what I'm seeing here, this is essentially just a looser fitting legging that has a cuff and a waistband. I think in an efforts to make it probably a little more setting appropriate. I think when it comes to leggings, maybe in specific office environments or places that you're going to be wearing them, leggings aren't always appropriate for the settings, but adding these little details makes it a little more formalized. We have this blue drawstring here. The drawstring is for the aglets. This is what's called silicone dip. And they will cut the drawstring to length and then they just dip it in the silicone rubber. One thing with these over time is these will start kind of peeling back and rolling. If you ever have like Nike Tech Fleece pants that have the dipped drawstrings on the zipper pockets, you'll see that those will start rolling. That's just inherent in how it is, but it makes it a little softer, a little more wearable. But that is what's going to start wearing first on these. And it's tacked in as well, so you can't take it out, which is the unfortunate part. We have a Vuori woven label on the left side. We have bar tacks here on the cover stitch. It's an interesting place to put them. So they're bar tacking this to reinforce the end of the cover stitch. This is probably where they started the cover stitch for the waistband to create the channel for it. In terms of placement, let's take at the front left of the hip. I probably would have just moved this at least to the back side because now you have this front left hip bar tack. However, it could just be a branding choice. This is my first item that I'm viewing from Vuori, so I'll keep that in mind for the next one. 2 needle cover stitch for the waistband channel. It is a 4 needle 6 thread for the flat lock seams. And then we have the fold over cuff here, which is all the same body fabric. It has been brushed on both sides and it is a interlock fabric. So when it comes to the interlock fabric itself, that is what makes it 4-way stretch knit. But by interlocking it, you're actually going to stop its stretch and limit that so you can prevent sheerness. However, this seems pretty lightweight. And it being brushed in this soft for a polyester, this is probably a micro filament polyester. Leg seam here on the side. Overall, fairly decent construction. These are probably all tearaway labels. Yeah. This is from Top Summit Garment Inc. in Cambodia. Just because of the inherent risk of manufacturing in China, given the current global political situation, a lot of brands are starting to divest to other regions, as well as trying to find regions where the labor cost is lower. So Cambodia, Myanmar are very popular locations for brands, especially in the athleisure space, to be moving outside of China because the fabric ultimately will come from China or Taiwan. But being able to manufacture in these lower cost regions, you can bring your costs down and still be close to your fabric mills. This also has their purchase order number and their size label, as well as a QC inspection sticker. The QC and PO sticker is actually not a tearaway. So the reason why this is probably not a tearaway is because if you have any issues with this and you return it to the brand, they want to be able to reference what purchase order they buy these in, what lot number, and who actually inspected it so they can make improvements on the products. Because if you do not track things, you cannot improve things at a factory level. We have the gusset panel here as well, a small little triangular gusset panel that has been flat locked and bar tacked. We have the hang tag here with the raw cotton drawstring. Oh, and these were 89 USD, 120 Canadian. So overall, decent workmanship. There isn't anything I would say inherently wrong so far on these garments. I would say I probably would have preferred these to be on the back, but again, that might be the design element of the brand. Pretty much everywhere where a seam terminates, they have bar tack to reinforce, which is an additional cost. Not a huge additional cost, but an additional cost that is a nice thing to see. The gusset panel is double lined as well. So overall, the workmanship is fairly decent. There's nothing inherently wrong, and I think they've made the decision to reinforce all the seams to make sure this garment lasts a lot longer. I know Vuori is kind of like the California version of Lululemon, and they're definitely taking a lot of notes from them in terms of what they can do to make the garments better. The fabric itself has a very decent hand feel. When it comes to polyesters, you might have issues with pilling, but this has not been brushed too much, so it might be okay. But overall, again, the workmanship is fairly decent here. Not a whole lot to say because there's not a whole lot going on with these pants, but let's take these apart. I want to show you all the panel pieces you need to make a garment like this. Before we do, make sure you like, comment, subscribe because we have some really cool things in the works right now that I cannot wait to show you guys. So first, let's take off the logo here. One thing I definitely can sense from this garment and this brand is that the decision to use traditional labels rather than a heat transfer, the decision to have a woven label on these, the decision to make it look more like a pant. I think over the last few years, a lot of people have really gravitated to very stretchy fabrics and got very comfortable in athleisure wear. But now that we're heading towards back to the office, we're heading out into public more, people want to wear these very comfortable fabrics, but they want to dress up a little. And this is clearly Vuori's attempt at doing that. This is like the freaking hardest label to take off.
3 hours later.
So here's the woven label. And this is what you call a damask woven. Now that we have the woven off, let's take these apart. So start with the cuff. And I mentioned bar tacks here, and you can see there's a bar tack over here, as well as over here. What bar tacks are high stitch per inch seams that really reinforce an area of high stress. Because when it comes to these threads, if a thread breaks, and usually it will or unravel at the end of its stitch, that's when garments start falling apart. But by bar tacking it, you are reinforcing the garment. You know what, now that I have this open and it's like really fresh on the inside of the cuff, this fabric is what I would call single side brushed. So when it comes to making fabric itself, one thing that people really want these days is buttery soft fabric. And to get that buttery soft feeling, you need to reduce friction or sleekness when you're touching the fabric. So they use mechanical brushes to actually destroy the surface of the fabric to give it this peached feeling. But you can see on the inside, they did not do that. And brands often do that, either one, to save on costs. And most of the time when people put on the garments, after it's on their skin, they don't really feel the fabric anymore, and they're often touching the outside for that hand feel response. Oh man, I should have eaten breakfast this morning. When I come across the gusset here, you'll see here that the gusset is going to be double layer. And the reason why you put a gusset is to alleviate camel toe, because if you have a seam from the back all the way to the front, especially, the seam is always going to have less stretch than the fabric itself. So if I grab this, and you'll see how much the seam stretches versus the fabric itself, and even at the gusset, what you're doing is you're distributing the force from the back seam now to the seam that comes across. So you're giving a lot more stretch here, and what that does is it prevents camel toe because you're no longer pulling from both sides. You'll see here the gusset is double lined. Here's the leg panel itself. Because I still have this leg assembled, I just want to show you how each panel completes each part of the garment. We have the cuff again, which is right here. We have the back panel, which is right here. And then we have the front panel, which is going to be there, and this panel right here. And then this is the waistband. So you'll see in here on the waistband, this white material is what's called interfacing. And what you do is you actually bond it to the fabric itself, so it provides more structure. And why is that important? Because when you have a waistband, the fabric itself is fairly lightweight and it'll just flop over. So by having more structure in the waistband, it will sit on the body better. And what's going to happen is it's going to help compress that particular area more. So it'll help kind of hold you in. You can see here that this is a stretch interfacing. You can also see here where this has unbonded. Over time, when you do have an interfacing like this, where the bond isn't the greatest, I would say they probably could have chosen a better application for the interfacing. Because it was already split on the inside, what's gonna happen is as you wear these, as you put them on and off, as you wash these, this is gonna start kind of like disintegrating inside the waistband, and it will start losing its shape over time. Whereas a kind of higher quality, better application, more well bonded interfacing will last a lot longer. But this particular one, I'd say under 10 washes, it's gonna start losing its structure, and the waistband itself is gonna start like losing its shape. In terms of the construction, you have the waistband again with the bonded interfacing. In this case, it is on the outside. Then you have the channel for the drawstring. With the drawstring itself, they have the eyelets stitched and reinforced. So I opened up some of the waistband here, and this is the cover stitch yarn. And you can see each yarn itself is made up of multiple filaments. And that is what's going to give it its strength. There's very little stretch in this yarn. There's the waistband itself. You can see the interfacing has been bonded on this side. And typically the interfacing comes in rolls and you basically heat press it onto the waistbands. Let me see if I can take apart one of these flat locks here. See this thread? Typically when it comes to a flat lock, you have the threads that are gonna run straight down, and then you're gonna have the ones that run across. The ones that run across are not gonna have as much stretch as the ones that run straight down. You'll see this yarn here. This is a multi-filament yarn. And what they have is all these filaments are running together, and then they ultrasonically bind them at set distances to create these bundles. But having the yarn like this gives it some stretch because you have the ability for it to sit at rest like this, and then when you stretch it, it basically straightens out these bundles. And then for the cord itself, you'll see it's just a nylon cord with the DTM on the outside. And this is the inside of the drawstring. So there you have it. These are all the components you need to make these Vuori daily pants. You're gonna have your waistband, which is your self fabric that's been folded over with a bonded interfacing. You have your drawstrings. You're gonna have your cuff panels, which will be here, as well as your front panels and your back panels on both sides of the legs. Let's see what the weight is. I want to tell you what I think this costs to make in Cambodia, and then I'll tell you my final score for this product. Yeah, 208, around 208, 210, 220 is kind of where you want to be with the leggings so that it provides enough compression as well as being comfortable enough for daily wear and minimizing issues in terms of sheerness. This being a 210 polyester elastane, I would say the fabric probably costs around like $450 per legging. In terms of utilization here, this is obviously an extra small, but I would say across the entire size range, you're probably looking at like maybe 1.1 yards, depending on the cuttable width of the fabric. So in terms of the cost of this, I would say it probably costs around $7 to make in Cambodia. As far as the fabric is concerned, this is a single side brush polyester elastane. It is definitely nicer than what I've seen from the few alloy items reviewed so far. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of chemical treatments on these leggings, which is a really nice thing. So in terms of the fabric itself, I would probably give this fabric a good 7.5 out of 10. In terms of the workmanship on these pants themselves, I would say these are fairly good. There's not a lot of defects that I see here, other than maybe where the bar tacks are in the waistband, but again, that could be a design decision from the brand. I'm gonna have to give the workmanship here a 9 out of 10. In terms of attention to detail for this product, I'm gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10. While they did make the decision to bar tack all the seams, I would have chosen a higher quality substrate for the interfacing so that it would have lasted longer, as well as the thread itself. They could have made a decision to go with a higher quality thread that is stronger, but I'm gonna have to give attention to detail from the brand a 7.5 out of 10. So in terms of value for these pants from Vuori, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. There's nothing inherently special on the fabric side. The workmanship is fairly good, but I think you can find very comparable products from other brands at a lower price point. So that brings the final score to 31 out of 40. We're gonna add it to the list. Let us know what other products you want us to review on this show, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time. If you guys want to see more behind the scenes secrets on the fashion industry and learn more about how to create products and brands, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and check out these videos.